I'm already tired. Is that bad sign? Sports Center with Jay and Dan, the at-home edition. Dan from his kitchen, me from my basement, and all of it brought to you by our friends at McDonald's. Don't forget, if you're hanging around at home watching us this morning, it's a great time to get McDelivery. This show goes great with an Egg McMuffin. Dan, some people have asked us how we're going to fill these shows, and other people have asked us, will insider trading still be a thing? Dan, not only is it a thing, we're going to see it twice a week. Once on Wednesday mornings and another on Friday mornings, because we got to make Duthie work.
Yeah, and there is a lot to talk about because the NHL, they announced today that they're extending a player and all personnel's self-quarantine from April 15th until the end of the month. So what does that mean for resumption of a season, the possible resumption of a season, or maybe just playing the playoffs? There is a lot to discuss, and one guy has his hands on the pulse. Duthie.
There are your insiders, Bob McKenzie, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger. Gentlemen, the NHL extending the self-quarantine of players, coaches, and staff from April 15th to 30th. That is not a surprise. Pierre, any idea on when they will make a firm call as to whether to try to finish the season or just call it a year?
Yeah, and the answer I got today, James, was not sure yet, quote unquote, and that mirrors what I'm told from another source, that the calls between the NHLPA and the NHL over the past week that have tried to update where they are and to project outwards, they really haven't brought up a firm deadline as to when they should either call the season or try to have a season resumption. But know this, I mean, if you're going to ask players who are in Europe right now to come back and play, they're going to have to be quarantined for 2 weeks. You're going to have a training camp, potentially some exhibition games, some regular season games before a playoff in the summer in July and August. So you're going to need time. So one governor I spoke with today said by late May, you should have an idea. Another one said to me by mid-June, you really have to know what you're doing. And keep in mind, the NHL is still in phase 1 in self-quarantine. Phase 2 is when players can get together in small groups and skate, and that doesn't seem to be close in sight here.
Gary Bettman told CNN yesterday he would expect 2 to 3 weeks for players to get in game shape. Dregs, coaches know it may not happen, but they have to plan for it to actually happen. What are their concerns when players do get back, if they do?
Well, the number one concern, James, is injury. No player has ever gone 2-3 months without skating and then jumped into a mini training camp or exhibition or regular season games. Number 2 on the list would be the energy level, the intensity level. This time of year, any of the playoff teams are running at full speed. Well, that won't be the case when the players return. It might be for some, it won't be for others. Will there be a willingness to finish checks, block shots? How long will it take to amp up that intensity? And then the third factor is the spoiler factor, and that's the non-playoff team, and they could be a huge threat, especially for those on the bubble. We're talking about teams who are going to put out their young guys who are auditioning for jobs, that type of scenario. Those will be huge points on the line. Those are the things that are going through the coaches' minds right now.
And most of the context of all NHL discussions the last few weeks have been trying to finish this season. But Bob, if you listen to the medical experts, next season does not seem like a guarantee in the least.
Well, you're right, James. It was fascinating to listen to the Surgeon General of Florida yesterday at a news conference where, until he was unceremoniously whisked away, presumably because the messaging he was giving may not have been to the liking of the governor of Florida. But it was interesting to hear him say that there won't be, or there shouldn't be, any large mass gatherings in public until such time that a vaccine for the coronavirus is widely available to the population. And then he went on to say that it's probably going to be at least a year, if not longer, before that vaccine is available. And this is consistent with what a lot of people in the medical and the scientific community over the last number of days have been raising as a possibility, that there should not be and there won't be any mass gatherings until that vaccine is in place. And if so, that's chilling news for the professional sports leagues, at least the economies of the professional sports league. And yes, the NHL is trying to conclude a 2019-20 season, but to think ahead to the 2020-21 season at the prospect of perhaps all of the season or a good part of the season maybe not being played before any fans are getting any ticket revenue for that, that's a chilling prospect for the economic side of things. And this is consistent with medicine and science on one side, politicians and financial people on the other side, and that push-pull about restarting the economy.
And it's so often after tragedy, sports is the thing that people turn to. In this case, it may very well be the last thing that returns.
So some good info there. You know, Jay, one thing I can't still wrap my head around is the passing of Colby Cave over the weekend, the 25-year-old dying, and the outpouring of support for his family as they drove back into Battleford, Saskatchewan on Monday with a line of 15 kilometers of cars waiting there to greet them. That's going to be an image that's forever on my brain.
It's such a tragic passing, and he was so young, Dan, just 25 years of age, suffered a brain bleed last week, passed away this past Saturday. The Edmonton Oilers, the team Colby was playing for, they have already announced with Colby's family the creation of the Colby Cave Memorial Fund, and the proceeds for this fund will go toward community programs that will provide access to sports for underprivileged children.
This is really led by Emily, Colby's wife, that she wants to have a fund under Colby's name for mental health and underprivileged kids to play sport. So we're looking at all the hockey community, Western Hockey League, NHL, everyone to join with us. We're looking for people to donate to this and really have something that we can do on an annual basis to make a difference in people's lives. That was something that was really important to Colby. He worked a lot in the community, and so we can help kids and individuals with mental health and also get kids to play hockey and other sports. This would be something that Colby and Emily will be very proud of. And I can tell you that the Edmonton Oilers, along with so many other people in the hockey community, will work many, many hours to make this happen for Colby.
Okay, so keeping
there you go,
Colby's
Dan.
Memory alive.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to think that his wife, who, you know, you got to imagine how difficult this must be for her, obviously. And she's so young, and the fact that, you know, she had it in her mind that she was determined to honor her late husband's memory in this way and do something so positive for the community of Edmonton. And you just hear, Dan, you hear so many amazing things from players like Sam Gagner and Connor McDavid and others about what a great kid Colby was. And obviously everybody in the Battlefords knows that. But yeah, it's an amazing thing that the Oilers and the Cave family were able to do this so quickly.
Yes, indeed. Okay, still to come on this show. We've got a check-in on Maple Leaf phenom Mitch Marner. What's he been doing? We're going to find out next.
Jay and Dan brought to you by McDonald's. And you know what? We're still walking places, you know, even though we don't have a studio. I'm walking places in my basement, like I'm walking over to this little ice cream set I have here. And I made Dan a little ice cream cone. So I know one of his favorites is mint chocolate chip. But I wonder if he likes, well, I think this is supposed to be vanilla, Dan, but it looks a little bit like pee. I can't lie to you. It looks like somebody peed in snow and put it on an ice cream cone.
Please never put vanilla on my ice cream cone. Ugh. No thanks. Hey, one thing we continue to do while we're stuck at home is our podcast. This past week we had Michael Del Zotto on. He gave us some interesting insights on playing against Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby. Also revealed what he's doing Fridays on Instagram Live. He's doing a little DJ set. And this coming week we're going to have Gino Reda for the first time ever. I don't know how we've never had him. Gino, so connected. Maybe he'll talk about Mitch Marner, because Marner and Gino spoke on Tuesday about the time that Marner and some teammates went to Justin Bieber's house.
We're all hanging out there, It was, I think, a week or two after his Yummy song dropped, or a couple days. We kind of went down to his basement, which is like, it's kind of a gym, but it's also got a big mirror. So when he's at home, he can work on his dancing and all that kind of stuff. So we went down there, started teaching us to dance. Probably after like the fourth or fifth step teaching us, he was about to teach us the next step. Austin and Tice kind of looked at him and like, all right, we're done. Like, we're dying. And then I just kind of, I don't know, I want to kind of learn it just to have it, and ended up getting the dance kind of down into routine. I have a video of it on my phone. I don't know. We'll see one day. Maybe I'll post it somewhere, but it was a cool moment for sure. Something that is pretty cool to have on your phone and show your family and kind of friends too. I'm missing the most, probably just hanging out with the guys, like hanging out around the rink, doing the stuff that you're used to doing. It's kind of an awkward time, right? It feels like summertime, but it's not. So you're trying to get a feeling for what's going to happen, trying to stay active and trying to stay ready for anything that can happen. So I just say going to the rink, hanging out with your buddies, hanging out with your teammates, and chirping them as much as you can and having fun with them. That's probably the thing that I've been missing the most.
Where the heck was Gino in those clips? I didn't see or hear from him. Anyway, Marner did come up with maybe a new hit for Bieber. Here's your summertime hit single, or fall, or no, spring, or anytime. Feels like summertime, but it's not. That's a hit.
You don't know what season it is, do you, Dan? And you're not alone. Nobody knows what season it is. Nobody knows what day it is right now. It's a mystery. Each and every day I wake up, I'm like, what is the day? What is the date? Where am I? Who am I? And the other interesting thing that Marner said was, you mentioned it, it's like, feels like summertime, but it's not. And, talking to Michael Del Zotto on our podcast, it seemed like he was doing this DJ set on his Instagram Live, and it's going to be this Friday afternoon, as a way to not just kill time, but to use some of the skills that he's learned over the years in different dressing rooms around the NHL. He's one of the guys who plays the music in the dressing room, and he decided to apply it to Instagram Live. Now he's got a live DJ set every Friday, so you got to check that out. Toolsy, I know you'll be checking out that DJ set. You love the EDM.
Oh, that's going to kickstart my weekend 100%.
Kickstarting the Ottawa Senators weekend was news that Pierre Dorion had to speak to the media on Tuesday, and he said some very interesting things, especially about the upcoming NHL draft. We still don't know how the draft will be conducted, but we do know that the Sens could potentially have 2 picks in the top 5, depending on the outcome of the lottery. Dorion was asked, how many times has he run the draft lottery simulator since the season was put on pause?
Every morning. Every morning it's part of my routine. And I do it until when we get 1 and 2, I stop. So some days it takes a few more minutes longer, but wherever we pick, we know we're going to get 3 great players in the first round, especially 2, hopefully in the top 5.
Can you believe that, Dan? Like, 2 in the top 5 potentially, but 3 first-round picks for sure. And then they have 7 picks in the first 2 rounds alone. So Dorion said they've done their homework, and you should hope so. And this 2020 draft is supposed to be a very deep draft. So this went from, a year ago when the Sens missed out on Jack Hughes and everyone was questioning their whole philosophy. Now that it looks like the cupboard's going to be stocked with cool young Sens superstars.
Yeah, but you have to feel for Sens fans because they're thinking, yeah, we've got all these picks. Of course there has to be a pandemic. Thanks a lot. I'm sure it'll all work out. One thing we did have on Tuesday was a retirement in the NHL, and that is friend of SportsCenter with Jay and Dan, Kris Versteeg, announced his retirement after 11 NHL seasons. Versteeg split time with 7 different teams, 358 points, won 2 Stanley Cups, both with the Hawks, and he played the last 2 years in Europe.
You have to love a career like the career of Kris Versteeg. I mean, you play with a bunch of different teams, you make a bunch of money. Most importantly, you win not 1 but 2 cups, and then just sort of the cherry on top, which I think every professional hockey player should do. You finish your career in Europe, You have a great time over there. You get paid well. The apartment's paid for. You get a car. And you just enjoy life for a couple of years, make a little bit more cash, and then shut it down. So congratulations to Kris Versteeg. Hope he has a great retirement. And Dan, I understand we have a little bit more news unrelated to hockey. Now we're moving to NASCAR. Kyle Larson, interesting day on Sunday. Racial slur, lost a couple of sponsors at the iRacing event, and now it's gotten worse for him.
Yeah, that's right. Man, is he regretting taking part in that iRace on Sunday, as Larson has now been fired by Chip Ganassi Racing. This comes after uttering that racial slur during a live stream virtual race over the weekend. Larson's also lost many of his sponsors. 27-year-old was in his 7th season with Ganassi Racing and has 6 career wins.
When we return, we'll tell you what we messed up. And you know we messed up a lot.
That call by Dave Van Horn, one of the most iconic in sports history. That was Tuesday night's edition of TSN's Expos Relive Series. Couple more classic Expos games this week. Thursday, you can see Pedro Martinez perfect through 9 against the Padres. That was in '95. And from 1999, we're going to see Vladdy Guerrero hitting his 40th home run of the season. That's on Sunday.
You're so right about Dave Van Horn. Such an amazing guy. Amazing call. It's time now for Who Delivered, presented by Mick Delivery. April the 14th, 96, the Red Wings beat the Stars to finish the season with 62 wins. They set an NHL record, only matched last year by the Lightning. By the way, in that season, Detroit scored 144 more goals than they allowed. In 1996, the Red Wings delivered. And that leads us to our very popular You Blew It segment, where we point out our errors. Dan, you were describing James Duthie as having his hand on the pulse of all news in the National Hockey League, but our long-suffering producer Tim pointed out it's supposed to be his finger on the pulse. Finger on the pulse. And then you described the yellow in this ice cream as having a yellow texture. Again, producer Tim, bit of a stickler, says color does not have texture. So I guess the bottom line is, Dan, Tim's really a nuisance to you still.
Yeah. And Mother Nature, she blew it. There's a blizzard outside my house right now. See ya.